All right, time to get serious. First of all, this video is not clickbait. I wanna get started out by saying that. I told you I'd bring the counter over. This video is not clickbait. Thank you guys for being here, Louis. You know, KitchenTableTCG, blah blah blah. I love the playmats. I really wish LSS would do a reprint policy on playmats. Anyway, let's get to it. First off, this is not clickbait. This is gonna be a conversation, and this video is meant to excite you. And it's meant to help you understand that Flesh and Blood is a viable collectible that's not in a bubble. It's meant to help you understand that you and I are not the only ones that are thinking about Flesh and Blood or aware of Flesh and Blood. I think it kind of feels like sometimes we're in this like own little world of ours, and we're like, do the big people really know what Flesh and Blood is, or are we just dreaming that this game is going to be hugely successful, as big as Magic the Gathering is, you know, not as big, but as, you know, as a big investment as Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, all those things. So this video is meant to help you feel secure about that if you are investing or collecting, but also this video is meant to excite you if you are a player, because what I'm about to say is going to, not me saying it, but when it happens, when what I say is going to happen happens, it's going to grow the player base of Flesh and Blood immensely. The game is going to hit new audiences, and it's going to be great. So it's good for everybody, both collectors, investors, and players. And this video is, what we're going to talk about is not the main subject of a video that I posted a few weeks ago or a week and a half ago about a big major couple players coming into the world of Flesh and Blood. However, this shows us a little bit closer. We are getting a little bit closer to these people and these players coming into our community and being aware of them. So without further ado, let's talk about it. The CEO and co-founder of DraftKings, the big, like, you see their advertisements everywhere, right? When sports are going on, whatever. The CEO and co-founder of DraftKings, Matt Kalish, confirmed 100% is aware of Flesh and Blood and is investing in buying cards. How do you know this, Louis? Well, number one, he posted on Twitter. So here's the, you want the background, here's the background. I often follow just accounts, like Twitter accounts and other places of people I think might at some point be interested in Flesh and Blood. And I put all their notifications on Twitter on notify me anytime they tweet. And so I just kind of, anytime somebody tweets at like 15, 20, 30 times a day, I get a notification. I just look to see if it's anything Flesh and Blood. It's just kind of part of my day. In addition to that, I do have people in the community who often send me messages and say, hey, just a heads up, this person bought a card or this person bought a card. And these are like, just like you, like these aren't like big time, you know, they're not stores or not anything like that. These are just like people who sell cards to people on the market. And so I've kind of known that Matt Kalish was involved in Flesh and Blood for a while, but I didn't have any like public knowledge of it. Like I had no way to do a video about it and share it with you without like throwing somebody under the bus for telling me or something like that. And that means a lot to me. When somebody tells me something, I like to hold it true, and I don't, unless they're like, hey, you can tell people, like I don't tell anybody. Like that's just the way that it is. I have integrity, and I don't want to ruin my relationships with people. And more than content matters to me, my relationships with other people matter to me. So I've known that Matt Kalish was involved for a while, but now finally, and here's a photo, he tweeted about Flesh and Blood. He tweeted a picture of a gold foil spring tunic with words, "I love cardboard." And like you have, like, I hope you understand how big this is. Now, first off, Matt Kalish only has about 15,000 subscribers or followers, which, sorry, let me back up. Matt Kalish has 15,000 subscribers. That's amazing. That's 15 times is what I have, okay? I'm not bashing that at all. But what I'm saying that is in the grand scheme of the world, the difference between 1,500 and 15,000, and then like the 3 million people, the 12 million people have followers, like Matt Kalish he doesn't have a huge following. But that being said, Matt Kalish has a ton of reputation, and that's what I want to talk about. So Matt Kalish has gotten involved, DraftKings CEO, somebody that has huge contacts, a huge wallet, has been purchasing cards. And then kind of as I identified on Twitter who this person was, and I kind of started putting the pieces together and kind of found out based on that Spring Tunic post what his Discord handle was, and I was able to kind of track and see all the cards that he's purchased, which is not all, like I don't know all, I didn't like make a list or anything, but I got to see that he's been very, very active in the Flesh and Blood world, which is awesome. Like, again, like, let me tell you how excited this is. Like, this is so good for the game. And anybody who's about to comment like, oh, the whales need to go away, they don't even care about the game. Like, you don't understand the way that the market works. You don't understand the way that hype works. You don't understand the way, like, the only thing you understand is like, yeah, now you can't afford a Heart of Feyendel. Sorry, you can't afford a Heart of Feyendel. You know what? Neither can I, and that does suck. And I will admit, I would love to own a cold foil Heart of Feyendel, and I never will, because people like Matt Kalish have gotten involved in the game. But that being said, that is such a selfish reason to be upset about this, right? Like, what's more exciting is that this game is going to grow. Like, people are going to learn about the game because of him, and that's an amazing thing. So let's talk about this stuff. So he's been purchasing a bunch of stuff, blah, blah, blah. That's all fun and games. Here's the point. Matt Kalish has a big wallet, and here's why that matters. Because people respect him. When the person who created a massive company tweets something or says something, people follow it. And that's the point here, is that Matt Kalish might not have a huge following, but his following is very, very deep. And his following is very important. Matt Kalish has been talking a lot about NFTs, non-something tokens. I don't remember the F word. Non-frugable, I can't remember, tokens. Which is these, the stuff that you see. I don't understand it. I don't love it. He just got some like punk heads. I can't remember. Anyway, I should have written down. Anyway, what I'm talking about is these things that are like super collectible. And a lot of the baseball sports cards, it's not baseball. I had baseball cards. I never got into basketball, football cards, but that's the ones that are popular. They're doing these like NFT tokens, right? Which is like you digitally own this thing that is 1 in X, like it's super limited. And the punk heads or punk guys or whatever he's talking about, they're like limited and they're selling for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's where this clues in, is that the other person who is also talking a lot about NFTs at this current moment is Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk. And why that's important is because if Gary Vaynerchuk catches on to Flesh and Blood, and let's just say in some conversation, Gary Vaynerchuk just happens to mention Flesh and Blood to his 3 or 4 million subscribers who follow everything that he does, this thing's over. I mean, it's going to skyrocket. It's going to go berserk. Like, our market is so small, and a person that big doing something is going to have a huge, huge impact. And so here's the thing. Like, Matt Kalish doesn't have a huge following, but Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm assuming, I know. I mean, I don't know, but I'm like assuming, and it's easily to make this assumption, that Gary Vaynerchuk is aware of Matt Kalish. And that Gary Vaynerchuk would be respectful or respect Matt Kalish's ideas or thoughts, and potentially and probably even follow Matt Kalish and have conversations with Matt Kalish. And so here's my connection here for you, is like, you need to be aware that these big time players are, in my mind or in my opinion, like, they've got their toes in our market. And they are purchasing high value cards. And here's what this means. It means that the market is so secure. Like, a Heart of Feyendel is not going to crash to $5,000. Like, your purchase, if you have the money to purchase a Heart of Feyendel, that is probably the most secure collectible asset in Flesh and Blood right now, the Heart of Feyendel. Because the people who have the money are always going to go to the top. They're always going to go to the most valuable thing. And I think that that's such a security blanket. But here's the other thing. those cards, there's only 500 of them, 550, whatever. There's only 500, 550 Hearts of Fandale. They're going to dry up. At some point, every single Heart of Fandale is going to leave the market. And you're not going to be able to find one. Because these people who are buying these, they're not going to sell them for $20,000 gains. That's not why they're in. Like, I love that Matt Kalish, when he tweeted this, he tweeted, "I love cardboard." Like, I legitimately think it's something for them to just be like, hey, look, I have this thing that's extremely rare. It's not about making twice their money. Like, they don't care. Like, dude, Matt Kalish is going to make more money taking a pee than he is going to selling his Heart of Fandale. He's got stocks in major companies and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't care about doubling his money on a Heart of Fandale. Oh, I bought it for 25 grand. Now I'm going to sell it for 50 grand. Like, that's what you and I would do. But these guys aren't going to do that. They're not going to do that. So the security of the cards is so, and so what's going to happen is we're going to run out of Heart of Fandales, and then they're going to go to the next best thing. And then they're going to go to the next best thing. And then they're going to go, and everything follows suit. And so again, the second, like, it's a snowball. It's a snowball. It's a snowball of contacts too, right? So even on that post, if you go to the Twitter and you look at it, you can see that somebody else in his company tweeted and replied, "Imagine not having stock, or imagine not having exposure to Flesh and Blood," and he tweeted like 6 alpha boxes, right? And so like his followers or his company, the other people within this massive company, this huge, I don't know if it's probably not a Fortune 500 company, but it's probably like it's a big deal. It's multi hundreds, millions of dollars is what we're talking about here. These people with these huge pockets are going to be involved. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that this is just a snowball that's going to keep rolling, because when one person is interested, everybody follows. And I'm guessing, like, here's the thing. I'm guessing Matt Kalish is not the first person. I'm guessing he has followed somebody else. And now his follow, and it's just this huge snowball that's just going to start rolling. And then so that's the money side of it, right? That's like Matt Kalish has the money. But then once the follower side of things, like once the Gary Vees and the other huge content creators and influencers, like, Steve Aoki and some of these people who are on the fringes in the collectible sphere, there's a million more of them, right? Once they start getting involved, this thing is going to just explode. Like, it's going to go absolutely bananas. And then, of course, we have, like, the security blanket of a channel like Alpha Investments that is already known and well loved in the community. Oh, not loved, but I love him. But yeah, well known in the community and respected, amongst collectors, probably respected. And that's going to cause this, like, this security net of, like, oh, I wonder if this thing is real. Right, like, for these, even for the Fortune 500 people who start getting involved, like they Google Flesh and Blood and they see a content creator with 300,000. They're not going to see me, right? Like, they're not going to respect my opinion, but they will respect somebody like Rudy's opinion. So contacts. That's what this is about. It's not about followers. For right now, the momentum of the high-level, high-tier collectors in Flesh and Blood is all about the contacts. That when one person is investing, their network is going to start investing to all have exposure. And that's going to trickle down to another network. And it's just going to all trickle, and it's going to snowball. So that's contacts. And then the other thing is, again, the second that somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, the second that somebody like Gary Vee post one thing about this, I'm talking a tweet, I'm talking he's got this thing called hot or not, or whatever it is. What is it? Come on, Louis, crap. Overrated, over or underrated. I think that's what it is. Anyway, I can't remember exactly what the thing is. It's brain farting here. But the second he mentions Flesh and Blood, is it overvalued or undervalued, right? And he says it's undervalued. I mean, everybody who watches those videos, millions of people, is going to go into our market. Not everybody, but a lot of them are going to enter into our market, and that's going to be huge. And so here's what I want to talk about. If you're a collector, if you're an investor, you obviously see the value in this. If you're a collector, you might want to start collecting a little bit more aggressively. If you're an investor, you probably want to stop selling your cards right now. And if you're a player, here's where I think this matters to you. And because I always try to answer the whole this is a channel for all three groups, right? And if you're a player, here's the thing. Because if Gary Vee makes a post, yes, the cards get more expensive. But we have unlimited. And that's what I want to highlight here, is that we have this amazing product here that is built for this exact moment, right? Like, it is built for $100,000 heart, right? Let's say the heart of Fandale is $100,000 by the end of the year, right? It's built for that because we still have a $600 version that you can use if you want to play it in a deck, which is still expensive, but you know what I'm saying. Let's say that the spring tunic, right? The cold foil tunic is let's throw out $20,000, right? Let's say that's $20,000. Well, you still have a $200 version that you can get in an unlimited box. Let's say Enlightened Strike, right? Like, you know, let's call that $10,000, right? The foil. Well, you can still buy a foil version for $150, right? Like, you can still get involved in the game. The game is still very, very playable. I know I just mentioned some really expensive cards. Those are like, obviously, like the most expensive cards, and you don't even need them for your decks. This game is playable at $150 a deck, right? Like, you don't need the $200 cards. It does help you. But the point is that you can still play the game. People can still get involved in the game. We've got Monarch coming out with these pre-constructed decks that are going to be hopefully great and hopefully be a great entry point for new players. And so for players, like, what this means is that the market for players is going to grow. More and more people are going to be aware of Flesh and Blood, and that will in turn result in more and more people coming to play in the Flesh and Blood and to play Flesh and Blood. And that is really, really, really good for you as a player. The last thing I want to hit on is Monarch, because I think that this might... I don't know that this happens before Monarch. Like, I don't know that... I asked, actually, I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video. I did ask Matt Kalish if he wanted to do an interview with me, and he has not responded to me. But I don't know when they come to the market and when they come to, you know, super public. Like, one tweet is one thing, but I don't know when they start being more public with this stuff. And if it happens before Monarch, that's going to cause Monarch to be... We already thought Monarch was going to be crazy. But that's going to cause Monarch to be insane. I anticipate that the conversations at that level for those people, if they are having these conversations, maybe I'm fictionalizing it in my brain, but if they are having these conversations, I anticipate that maybe they don't pop in until after Monarch to try to scoop up some of the Monarch cards prior to a big spike. So again, and I've said this since before I was aware of it. I've been saying this for I don't even know how long. This channel hasn't been on for 6 months. Been saying this for 2 months, since December. Do not sell your Monarch cards. Don't sell them. Don't sell them for the first 3 weeks. Like, it's not worth it anyway. But now even more, like, if we don't start seeing some of these higher name people popping in, I would really highly recommend that you do not sell your Monarch cards. I'm talking your legendaries, your fableds, your cold foils, of that stuff. Hold on to those with diamond hands, because stuff's getting real. Hey, remember to be kind to the people around you. Hey, if you are one of these people, if you are watching my channel and you are Matt Kalish, or you are somebody who is involved in this stuff, here's to I'd love to have a conversation with you. Like, I'd love to welcome you into our community, because I believe that what you are doing, though it's crazy to me, like, I can't imagine $25,000 to buy a heart with. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I live in a small town in West Virginia. Like, that's not the world. I'm not that world, but I can't imagine that. But I would love to have a conversation with you and welcome you into our community and hear what you like about Flesh and Blood. I would love to hear what you like about the collectible world of Flesh and Blood, and whether that be, you know, maybe you write me an email and it's anonymous, right? And, you know, my email address is in the description, KitchenTableTCG@gmail.com. If you show me verification that it's you and you ask me to keep it private, you have my word. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but you have my word that your information will be kept private. I do have integrity. I do believe that is super important. And then also, if you just want to remain anonymous, I totally get that too. But you can share your story with us, and I'd love to share it. And if it's anonymous and I'm not aware that it's true, then I'll just disclose that at the beginning of the video. It'll be good content. So hope you have a great day. Hey, remember to be kind to people around you. And this has been a wild, wild ride, and it's only going to get more wild.